Welcome, everyone. I am Reverend Bobby, and welcome to The Journey. Today, I got my boy with me, Brother Shabazz. He put me on his hip when I was in St. Pete, showed me around. Shabazz, how you doing
Yes, my
today,
brother.
brother?
Wise and civilized, my brother. Wise and civilized. Good to be with you.
Wise and civilized. At least it's one of us around here civilized because we could use some civilization up in this bad boy these days. Anyway,
Can't we?
while we civilize, people be civilized too and go to Gospel of Robert, GOS capital GOSPELOF capital ROBERT on YouTube. You might have to put the @ sign in front of it and subscribe to the channel. So, man, it's been a long time since we hollered and been on each other's hip. Tell the people a little bit about you, and I'll listen and catch myself up.
Copy that. Well, I'm raised up in Brooklyn, in New York City. Um, I am into youth development. I tutor math and reading comprehension, and great support of our culture and our history. I've been doing this now for about 30, 40 years.
Because
And
you were doing that in St. Pete basically when I met you. What
absolutely,
kind of fulfillment?
absolutely.
What kind of fulfillment you get from doing that?
Um, I guess the fulfillment is since I was 8 years old, I wanted to be a teacher. So now that I'm 35, 35, 40, the fulfillment is that I'm carrying out my childhood dream, which is to be a teacher. I don't usually use the word teacher, but yeah, that's the fulfillment. I appreciated the way my family looked out for me when I was a shorty, and I just wanted to give back, continue giving back. So I used to take care of my cousin's little children, and that was the introduction to working with young people, and I've been there ever since.
What's the one thing about working with young people you really like?
I would say helping them become efficient in their culture, in their math, and in their reading. Meeting them at one grade level, and by the time they're done with me, they're whatever grade level they were at, they're up another grade level. I enjoy the recreation time with them, the field trips and whatnot, getting them out there, puny community. And also, I know I'm helping the parents and the families because I know they can't do it all on their own. So sometimes I hate to even charge because I'm having fun. So I guess that's the underlining thing. It's fun. It's fun helping them and their families.
Well, I know like some of the things, like I've done over the years, because I always had the kids, and I see these little rascals, man, that was knee high to my ankle when their grandmama used to bring them to church, and they're juniors in college, like
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and
That's a good
and
feeling.
watching and being a part of them journey well. And was that something intrinsic in you? Did it develop over time, or you just felt it, like from a young age that this was like a mission, a assignment, a anointing for you to do?
All praises due to the Supreme Being. I had no clue this is what I was going to be doing. I wanted to teach, ended up going to college to be a teacher, and I learned along the way that I didn't want to be the teacher that they was talking about. I wanted to be like the teachers that motivated me, people like yourself, and they didn't go to school. And that's when I realized, oh, they didn't go to school to be who they are. That was their nature. They just happened to be in that job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I eventually accepted what you just said and realized that it must be innate some way, somehow. because I never wanted to be a traditional classroom teacher, even though I had a classroom for a couple of years. But it wasn't at a public school. So I was able to make a better difference. I was able to be myself more. But I see the classroom teachers, they have to stick to this curriculum that's sent down from above. And I don't mean all the way upstairs, just from, upstairs in the building. And so I would say I didn't know what I was getting into, so it must be innate, but I know I wanted to teach. And the first times, I learned something about myself. If I'm in front of a group of people as the teacher or the educator, all nervousness goes away.
But that's because you walking in your purpose, duh.
Yeah, well, I found that out. Because if it's something else, I could get. Before then, I was a shy guy. I was an introvert. Would get stage fright, but if it's about education, boom, all of that went out the window. All of that would go out the window.
Well, when you accept your purpose, it becomes really easy. And I know if I could just take a minute of your time here, people looked at me as all these different things to them. And I was like, whoa, how can I possibly be all these different things to all these people? So I tried, and it was a terrible mess. But once I realized I was whatever they saw in me to them from the beginning, then it came a little bit easier. Has it reached that easy point for you yet? And how you flow in that where you are?
Yes, it has. And what makes it the easiest is using humor. Mm-hmm. I was one of the there was a clique of three of us, and I was the third in line, and I was the third funniest. So in third in line, for folks who don't know, that meant back in the day when you lined up in size order.
Right.
So I was all the way up at the front. So and growing up in East New York, I was kind of small in comparison. So I had to learn to use that humorous wit or slick out the mouth. And then when I eventually accepted the teaching role, I remembered that humor and brought that humor into the lesson plan. So that's one of the things I use a lot. The first thing I tell a kid is, yo, I will laugh at you, but I'll be laughing with you. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to make mistakes. And I do things like that to disarm them. Because usually when people are happy and laughing, you can pull out of them what you need to pull out of them and let them see it, and then let them realize they know it. And every once in a while, you got to pour it in them. And it's easy to do that when they're relaxed. And I try to relax all my students with some humor and keep it light.
But you made a good point there about the humor, disarming them, because as you were talking about, that's the one thing that I had in my mind as you were talking. I said, he's a slick one, disarming them. They put their guard down, didn't give them and stuff.
Right.
But as I talk to people from the teaching profession, my mommy and daddy was teachers, and I kind of got a little bit of it.
I didn't know that.
But the reading, comprehension, and right after I came through, I got you by about 30 minutes in life. But right after I came through, critical thinking, the way it was written in the curriculum was taken out, and we can kind of see the results of it today. How you kind of can opening them up to let them know, listen, this is something imperative that you have to do for your success.
Okay, I would call those the 5 W's. And you probably recall them: who, what, where, when, and why. And at the beginning level, you have to be able to answer those questions one at a time. And at the higher functioning level, you have to be able to answer those 5 W's in one sentence. And then you might be ready for critical thinking. Usually, critical thinking comes up easiest when we're doing cultural history. For example, I asked them, what was Black History Month originally? And of course they don't know. And I tell them it was only a week. And they say, yeah, I know. And it's in the coldest month. And I'm like, well, what would you be doing outside in the coldest month anyway? And then I would inform them that Negro History Week originally wasn't about, I built the pyramids with the chest out and I was the first one to make a boat and sail across the ocean. No, it was to counteract racism. And so now when we get into counteract racism, then, we have to talk about what racism is. So over time, the ability to think critically becomes stronger. And then you can only, fast and pray that they continue on their journey on their own after the bell rings. But that critical thinking is very important to make sure that your students are into that. So one of the ways I do it with mathematics is I have them create the equations first. And then once I see they can create the equation, then I tell them, like, for instance, I would say, go home, create 50 equations. Of course, they come back with 10 or 25.
Of course.
So then I'll say, okay, half of those tonight, you're going to do it for homework, and half of these, and the other half we'll do in the classroom or during the tutoring session. And I let them struggle with it. I don't jump right in right away and give them the answers. I let them struggle with what they did. And it's pretty much when you're solving an algebraic equation, if it says to add, then you do the opposite. You subtract. If it says multiply, you divide, and so forth and so on. And so I think algebra is a good introduction to critical thinking. And of course, with those 5 W's, comparing and contrasting, and then asking the student, what do you think about it? What do you think about it? And then when they're strong enough to respond, in a safe place, in a safe environment, then they're open to criticism of what they said. And then they see how it goes back and forth. Like just the other day, my students, their brother and sister, it was a beautiful moment. I wish I could freeze it in time. I taught them this card game where we practice adding and subtracting. They're early elementary students. Where we practice adding and subtracting with positive and negative numbers through the cards.
Yeah.
So the younger one, she had her level, and then her older brother, he had a little higher level of playing the game. And so she wanted to jump ahead, and
of course.
Yeah. So I said,
she's a girl. They do that. Okay. I hope ain't nobody around to hear me.
I can neither confirm nor deny the truth of that statement. So I said, okay, so I applied his rules to her, and he would get upset because his rules were a little harder. So when she asked to play by those rules, I said, sure. Man, when she hit that wall, you could see her face, everything changed in her face. She stopped for a moment and she said, this is how my brother feels. And I said, exactly. That's exactly how your brother feels. Yeah. So you still lost a turn.
Yeah.
And we kept it moving.
But with kids and stuff, they do want to jump ahead. My daughter, she was they wanted to put her up into 7th grade math, and she was in 4th grade.
Whoa.
I ain't like it, but she did it. But she was yanking C's, and it was upsetting her. And I said, well, Aaron, I ain't like it because your mind has not matured to the point to
Right.
handle the concepts that they are
Right.
feeding you. I said, so you're gonna struggle, and I didn't like it, but I said okay, because in this struggle, you're gonna learn more than you think you learn, even though a C is up under you, for that. But it was
Yeah.
a special thing, so it didn't matter in her grade thing. But as you were saying about doing with the kids, and you let them do the equations and then solve their own equations, what did that ownership of their own stuff do for them?
They feel good. They feel good. They think they're doing something, and that's what's important, that they think they're doing it. And that makes it easier to take them to the next level. And so that would be the answer to that question. Yeah, that would be the answer to that question. And I learned also that in the beginning, you do imitate. You do exactly like the person in front of you is doing. And then when you take it on your own, you become original with it. So I learned that along the way. I didn't know that in the beginning. But yeah, they take ownership of it. And another critical part of mathematics is, does your answer make sense? Before you correct them or check it, correct, does your answer make sense? And that's another introduction to critical thinking. If you go ahead. I'm sorry, you was gonna say?
No, I just said it is.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah. So if you say 5 + 5 is 55, I try to keep a straight face because the kids know me. And I ask, well, does that answer make sense? You have 5 and 5, which actually is such and such number, but you're all the way up here in the 50s now. And so they think about it on their own. And so that's another introduction to critical thinking. Does your answer make sense?
Yeah. And one thing that I liked about math is it was an exact science, the numbers and everything.
Yeah.
Even in counseling now, I tell people, I say, remember we did long division by hand, had all the numbers in the bottom, but the answer went to the top. So all the work you do to get to the answer you need for your life is this other stuff that
right.
But it's just the work. But you want to get that answer, and being that exact science, it also helps to discipline their thinking in some manner, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? And that's one of the struggles. Start with the smaller numbers and work your way up. Don't be so quick to jump up to the big numbers. Don't be so quick to think the answer is a big number. So as they say in Spanish, cole suave, take it easy, take it easy. And I also introduce them to the concept that can also go with critical thinking, I gather, is the first couple of questions on the test are the easiest, and then it builds up to a big old storm. So relax.
Yeah,
that's the way school is set up. Easy peasy, easy, boom. Then they get you with the hard one. So take it easy, relax.
Yeah, because they want to get you kind of in the mood of, it's just like warming up a car. In the old days, sit outside.
Kids don't know about that.
Warm up.
Right.
You from New York.
Yeah.
You got to warm up.
Yeah.
And sometimes our brain had to warm up a little
I remember one time even sitting in the car waiting for my aunt's boyfriend to take off. I'm like, yo, why I ain't say it exactly like this, but I'm like, yo, why we sitting here? He like, the car warming up. I was like, the car warming up.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to what you just said. That was my introduction.
Well, I'm glad I introduced myself onto it, because some mornings I'm planning to be like that 20 minutes warming up just to just to get up. But
Okay.
when you see the kids with a light bulb come on, and you know you got them to this point, and you could take them further. When you see that, um, how does it make you feel about all the effort and stuff you put into what you do?
In the beginning, it was vanity. Now I know it's a blessing. And yeah. In the beginning, it was like, yeah, oh, look what I did. And then it eventually became, look what that kid can do. Sometimes it's I knew the kid could do it. Lots of times they've gotten over the hurdle of hard work and self-doubt. And then the bell rings and I gotta let them go. But yeah, that's I would say that would be the answer to the question. Vanity evolved into feeling blessed that you're able to help this student and parent at times get over whatever it was in their way, getting around it, under it, through it. And that's a great feeling in the beginning, and after a while, it's humbling. It's humbling, and that's why I say a blessing.
But it sounds like, through everything you said, and through the man that I know, too, that there's something inside you that beats, not desiring to help people because you do that, but to keep you in the modality of always helping people. A word. You did me, took me around, showed me this, showed me that. Okay, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. This is who this is, and this is who that is. You don't know how much that helped. But you do that. Did it come from some childhood stuff? Was it just in you? Was it just, that stuff that come out of Brooklyn, like the Brooklyn boys that I know, because they do the same? What is it?
There was a tragedy in my immediate family when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't reared directly by my immediate family. So therefore, I always had family members looking out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I realized they weren't doing it because I was special. It was the connections I had with them through family. So it was like, wow, they're looking out for me. So that's how it jump started. So then as I'm growing up, I get into Black history. One of my other cousins, she helped me write one of my first Black history book reports, and it was a critique of the Black history in the textbooks. And
they put you out of school, didn't they?
No. It wasn't that bad. But my aunt, who I lived with during this period of time, she was the first one in the family to go to Africa. I didn't even know it was Africa. I knew it as Morocco.
Yeah.
Okay. So she also introduced me to Ebony Jr., which was a magazine, it's the Ebony for not adults, the regular Ebony, and then it was the Ebony Jr. for kids. So that was one of my introductions to Black history. And so, like I said, that cousin that helped me write that book report, then my other cousins, who was the children of my aunt, who I grew up with for a long period of time, they also talked to me about not only Black history, but the present history.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones who taught me to stay away from the hard drugs. So this evolves into me reading about Black history. And back then in New York, 6 out of the 7 nights a week, there was an event to go to.
Yeah.
Sunday, of course, was the Black Liberation Theology churches with Herbert Daughtry in Brooklyn or up in Harlem at the Abyssinian Baptist Church. Another night, it was the African Poetry Theater out in Jamaica, Queens, the Slave Theater in Brooklyn. Of course, the Nation of Islam. That was also Sunday. So you could go to Black Liberation Theology via Christianity in the morning, and then the Nation of Islam in the afternoon, and then Ilombe Breath with the Patrice Lumumba Coalition on Fridays. So I was able to immerse myself in this, and all of that became my college, so to speak, for teaching history and learning empathy for the student, because they don't know. And realizing that, oh, that word education, square root, really does mean to pull something out of us, because it really is in us.
Yeah.
Versus you're thinking, you're feeling them. And so all of these things helped me to grow and develop into the brother you met in St. Pete. And then brothers like you, once I'm grown, helped me stay on point. So I've always been supported by community members. Even when I was a kid, they wouldn't let me hang out with the wrong reindeer. They were like, "Go home, Rudolph. We not Santa Claus. We not delivering toys." So I've always been blessed since the tragedy in the family to have people looking out for me. And what the tragedy was I lost my parents, my birth mother and my father at an early age. There was a horrible house fire, took my mother out, my birth mother out, took my father out by default. I was told my father was never the same after the fire. So that made me realize that the guy I was thinking of as my father, that also wasn't him completely, because he had been so tragically hurt by the loss of his wife and my older brother and sister. So that's why these cousins are so important. Mm-hmm. And then eventually my father remarries, and so now I'm no longer with my aunt. Now I'm with my father and his new wife, who nowadays I know as my mother. And that's who's from St. Pete. That's why I was in St. Pete, Florida. I eventually moved down there to finally be with her, because we had never had that type of bonding opportunity, because Pops died a few years later, and his family, my custody returned to his family. And so my mother wasn't able, the one who I know as my mother, my father's second wife, I wasn't able to stay with her. And so all of these folks, and then moms taking me in, even though I didn't come out of the womb.
But that's what straight away, that's what we did as Black people.
To show you how you're right, I learned later on that I had another aunt that wasn't from my grandmother's womb, but they did what you just said. They brought her in, and she was raised with the family. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I learned that along the way too. Yes.
And was as much family as a womb child.
Yes.
Well, and real quick for you in your New York Blackness experience, I went to military school, but one of my boys at military school, I remember his mama and them as all of them activities in Black. When we would go up there in New York, I'd stay with them because it was too far to come home to Chicago. We catch a bus, go straight up 95. I go hang out with them. But man, the strongness and essence. And in fact, he posted something the other day, and I shot him a message just in the email, and I said, "Do people listen to you?" And he said, "After all these years, Bobby, no, but I feel it as my child to tell them these things, to keep them aware of these things, even though they don't get it right away." Same like me, and same like you. So as we come to the almost end of this particular point in the journey, you gonna do this again with me one day?
Anytime, anytime.
Yeah.
You were one of my inspirations. I couldn't believe you was from Chicago. I just knew you was from New York, but I ain't gonna hold that against you.
But see, it's like my boy. He's in DC now with his daughter. He from LA. I thought he
Okay.
should have been from Chicago. You know, he said,
See?
man, you would have fit right in LA.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what it is? I saw one of my grower boys making me a staff. You know, he made them for our boys growing up. Now that I need one called Jack my knee, he making me one. And we was talking. And it's the same people that we grew up with in different bodies and stuff across the traverse life with us. It's almost like you with your boys, even though your name was this and you was that in front of New York. I could hang out in New York. Now I do tell you one thing about New York.
Talk to me.
It's some streets in New York I wouldn't walk down, and I ain't no punk. But listen,
I ain't no punk neither, and there's some streets I wouldn't walk down to this day.
Listen, that's out. But look, real quick for the people, give them something to hang on to till they see us again.
Make sure your children are practicing their abilities to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, read and write on or above grade level.
Thank you, my brother.
My brother.
And this Reverend Bobby, I'm going to remind you once again, the numbers you do is really letters. Gospel of Robert, GOSPELOF, capital ROBRT. Might have to put the @ in so that you can subscribe and get the ding. When, Brother Shabazz and I come back and some of the other people I roll through, because we got some good stuff for you. And from myself and Brother Shabazz, we pray, we hope, we wish. We demand from the universe,
I say,
that you all travel well from here. Peace.
Peace.